Okay, I'm replying to journal kind of like 3 and 4 cuz I'm taking notes from classes for the last 2 weeks and mostly a lot of what I'm about to say is based off readings from module 4. I mean 5, 4 or 5. Let me check real quick. I think it's reading to module 4. It's module 4. So, the big question I feel like we're trying to cover in this class is how we can support diverse students. How can we support people that are English learners? Like it's their second language. How can we support immigrants that are coming here? They don't really know English, or maybe students with learning disabilities, and they don't know the English language very well. Like, what can we do? And so I'm just going to take a couple things off of these articles, and then I'm going to say not necessarily why I disagree with them, but why I would take a different approach, right? So, like, some of the strategies in this first one, reading comprehension, David W. Moore, he says, like, show, don't tell. Okay, yeah, sure. I can agree with that. Direct, explicit instruction, yeah. Connect readers to students' lives. Yeah, definitely. You want to make it personal. Encourage cognitive collaboration. Make sure, the peers are talking to each other. Focused instruction. The thing is I could say this about any learner, not just English as a second language learner or just diverse student learners. Like, these really apply for everyone. And now let's go to educational leadership. Douglas Fisher, Nancy Fay, and Douglas Williams. And what they really say is, like, get read alouds, KWL charts, which we discussed in class, so I'm not going to go over it, graphic organizers, vocabulary instruction, writing to learn. Like, yeah, check. I agree with all of this. But the thing is when you're in university, you're in this bubble. I feel like I have a lot of teachers in my family, so I feel like I have an okay grasp of what it's actually like getting in the field. Not that I've, had extensive experience. But in education, I feel like we just talk about these theoretical situations of, like, okay, what if you have this? What if you have this? And we have this curriculum and program of studies that we have to hit, that we have to target as teachers. But we really get such little help from the government on how to achieve that. We have to make thousands of lessons plans. We have to scour different resources to add to our lesson plans. Like, I think in class, like you or the professor or whatever, brought up the scenario of how there was an immigrant from Ukraine in your class. And it was like, what do you do with this immigrant? Because she doesn't speak English. Like, I guess you can use Google Translate, like, you can try all this stuff, but there's such a language barrier. There's so little you can do about it. And why is it the teacher's job to figure that out? Why do we not have a go-to procedure to deal with this stuff? Because it's not just happening in one classroom. Like, Canada is a cultural mosaic. We're not a melting pot like in the States, where we all just conform to basically one culture. No, we are a cultural mosaic where we have so many different cultures here. And for a society that hangs our hat on education, we do such a poor job of supporting the teachers in educating students. Like, we should have, in my personal opinion, we should have the best social studies teacher, the best language arts teachers, the best science teachers, and we should have their lesson plans near our curriculum. And it should be a link we can go to. And because of that, we base all of our lesson plans off of that, because we know that lesson plan is proven. So it basically cuts out all the mediocrity, all the hardship of figuring out what works and what doesn't, because we have something. But the government doesn't give us anything. And do you know how hard it is for teachers to connect with other teachers? Like, I feel it's very difficult. I feel like we have a lot of mediocre teachers, and maybe that's because lack of mentorship in their practicum. Maybe it's just lack of support. You know, there's so many different things the government can be doing besides just giving us a curriculum and like outcomes to teach. So it's like, you know we have so many English learners in our country. Why is there not a set lesson plan we can base our own lesson plans off of? That doesn't mean everything has to be homogenized and we have to like follow it to a T, but we at least have something we know is proven and works, so we can use that instead of giving us all like 50,000 resources to sort through and not knowing what works or what doesn't or what's good. So while I do think writing to learn is good and giving direct, clear instruction is good and all these other things, I feel like teachers just don't get the support, even with, like these 7 suggestions where it's like, this is how you should do it. And I agree, in the classroom, this is how you should do it. This would help, but what would help more is more government support and a revolution of education, because we've been teaching education for thousands of years. So why are we trying to rewrite the wheel or reinvent the wheel every single time? I don't understand it at all. It frustrates me. I see problems in education with teaching, and I think a lot of it can be solved from not more resources, because we have a lot of resources, but more defined lesson plans, and that the government can approve and they can put next to our program of studies, and then specific resources, very specific, to help with English learners, and very specific lesson plans we can follow, so we can not be as lost. And this is going on 7 minutes, and I don't feel that bad because this is for like both my journal entries, and I want to make sure I'm doing a good job in explaining, I think, my revolutionary idea. One last point I want to touch on is my dad works for Boyle Street. He's a principal at Boyle Street Education. It's a charter school. It's for kids that can't really succeed in public school, so they need a different format of teaching. And so really what they're focused on there is not so much getting the specific outcomes of grade 10 or grade 11 or grade 12 science, but trying to teach students the level they're at. And I feel like for English learners, we need to do that. Like you kind of brought this up in our last lesson this week of, scaffolding, and how, even if you scaffold, that doesn't mean it's going to help anyone. With the Spanish example, like no one knew those words, even though you scaffolded, no one knew those words. So what we really need to do is we need to take students that are down here and not bring them up here, but come down where they are and then slowly bring them up one step at a time and teach them where they're at. And I think that's really important, to not just only focus on the curriculum, but just learning as learning. So yeah.